The secret to well-being is discovering the power that is your birthright, the power to create a happier, healthier life drawn from our own vast internal resources. Join Jules and her guests as they gently guide you to shift your perspective from the familiar negative to the divinely connected, a place that will not only positively impact your world, but possibly shift the planet. It's all right here on Law of Attraction Talk Radio.
Well, welcome to Law of Attraction Talk Radio. I'm Jules from beautiful Southern California. And I'm so glad you're here, because if you feel like your life is out of balance, out of harmony, well, it may have to do with your home or the area that you're living in. So let's start 2013 off right by getting your chi in order. Tonight I want to introduce you to Mr. Elliot Tanzer, astrologer, Feng Shui expert, and best-selling author. Now, I feel that Elliot is at the top of his field, so I want to make sure you all know about him. So sit back, relax, stay tuned as we get into changing your immediate surrounding and improving your chi. Right here on Law of Attraction Talk Radio. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Law of Attraction Radio Network, enhancing the well-being of millions of listeners worldwide. LOARadionetwork.com is heard through 25 different internet radio stations, as well as iTunes Radio, Stitcher.com, and our mobile apps. The Law of Attraction Radio Network, your trusted source of daily inspiration, at LOARadionetwork.com.
Okay, we're back. Now, we all know about the power of energy that not only flows to and around us, it's also in the earth. And it's also what Feng Shui is all about. I've been using Feng Shui for years, and I have been so confused after reading books, but I finally decided to get serious about bringing harmony into my life. So I asked Elliot to come to my home and do his thing. Well, the change has been wonderful. I feel so calm and even-keeled. Now I know why at times I have felt like I was a live wire, and it has to do with astrocartography. And because Elliot helped me fix the chi and understand what is going on with my nervous system, I am able to sleep better than I have ever before. I feel so much better. Let me tell you about Elliot Tanzer. Elliot has been a student of philosophy, psychology, religion, and metaphysics since he was a teenager. He began his professional career as an astrologer in 1973 and also began teaching metaphysics, astrology, and spirituality then. Elliot has been a featured speaker in life expos and international Feng Shui conferences. He has taught at the Western School of Feng Shui in California, the Nordic School of Feng Shui in Sweden, and is currently on teaching staff at the Integrative School of Feng Shui. Elliot is often the media's go-to person for Feng Shui, and he has been interviewed on CNN and many TV and radio talk shows. He is the author of The Spiritual Body, Meditation and Metaphysics, and Their Practical Application. And he's also the author of Choose the Best House for You, The Feng Shui Checklist, and Feng Shui Secrets, Improving Wealth and Relationship Harmony, and an astrological how-to guidebook evaluating astrocartography, maps, finding the best places to live and travel, your step-by-step guide. Welcome, Elliot, to Law of Attraction Talk Radio. I am so thrilled that we get to speak about astrology and Feng Shui.
It's my pleasure, and thank you for having me on. My favorite topics.
Elliot, you know, I consider you to be at the very top of the field in Feng Shui and astrology, your insights and knowledge into everything, and it kind of connects everything together. And after many years of studying the books and everything, boy, you sure brought a lot of clarity to me when I was fortunate to have you be able to come directly to my house. I was very honored.
Well, likewise, and it's very convenient that you just live up the highway from me, so
Yeah.
made it easy. Otherwise, most of the time I do Feng Shui for folks. They send me a stack of photographs, floor plans, and we do it just like we're talking now over the internet. So it's always to me a pleasure and an opportunity to actually come to someone's house.
And we spent the entire day going over things. It was so fascinating. And I want to introduce people to astrocartography. You know, I don't think people really understand the concept of this and how it can really impact your life. If you know where the stars are in alignment in the particular location that you're in, it's quite fascinating.
Definitely. And just for the sake of pronunciation, it's 3 syllables: astro, which of course means stars, astro; carto, which is map making, refers to maps, carto, as in cartography. And so astrocartography is basically plotting the stars or map making with the stars, showing you the actual position or path that they were taking as they crossed over the face of the earth. So if a person was born when the sun was rising, well, then we would see on their map a line showing that sun rising in that location. If they were born at high noon, then the sun would be at the midheaven. So when planets get close to those, what we call angles, the horizon, the high noon, the midnight, that's when they come into prominence. And just like falling in love, you have to have chemistry. Well, astrocartography shows you your chemistry with a location, which is why some people go, you know, I've been living here forever and I'm miserable, I'm never happy, blah, 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 blah. And that's probably because they're not living on their best energy lines. And likewise, somebody who gets off the plane, even if it's on vacation, as you recently were, and if they're in their best location, or one of their many best, we can hope there's many, then they want to sing and dance, and they find it reluctant to leave.
Yeah.
Some places, of course, are a mixed bag, and, you know, there's a lot of good energy, but it's not quite great. And so you have a lot of in-betweens, those extremes, but nevertheless, what I've covered over the years of doing now, I've done well over a couple of thousand map evaluations since the early 1990s, although playing around with this in the 1980s, but quite frankly didn't know what I was doing. And I say that in caution to anyone who does ask their local astrologer to help them with their map. You have to ask them if they're certified, or at least studied with somebody who was certified by the originator, Jim Lewis. Because if they weren't certified and they're good astrologers, doesn't mean they're good astrocartographers. There is certain rules, and you can't just make that up as you go along.
Boy, do I second that. You know, my mother purchased one of these maps for me when I was in high school. So without consulting a professional, I just took the lines and thought that, hey, these are my special places. Well, later in life, I traveled to these special places like St. John's, Newfoundland. And do you know what? Because of the other aspects of the lines, I found out afterwards that they were the most miserable places on earth for me. I could hardly wait to get away. So I stressed the importance of having a qualified professional read these maps, and when you do, you're going to fully understand what's going on with you.
Yeah, personally, I'm rebellious enough to say certifications aren't always necessary if you have years of experience, personal, hands-on. But map evaluations do require to know how to convert hundreds of miles into a fraction of an inch.
Yes.
So that, as in your situation you just mentioned, you're not going to the line that's closest, but you're realizing that a line that's maybe looks like it's far away isn't maybe far enough. You know?
Yeah.
And you end up walking into an upset. Now, of course, you know, we do have what's also called in astrology transits, progressions, you know, the forecast, what's coming up or what's going on now. And if you do travel to even your best location during a tough time, you know, it's still going to be better than maybe if you stayed in a worse location, but you won't really feel the joy of that location as much as, say, for instance, your initial introductions during one of your better transits. And likewise, a tough place, even during better transits, might be at least better, but it won't be as wonderful as it would be on your best location.
Case in point, I discovered talking to you that Tulum, where I just got back from, was one of the most auspicious places for me. And the experience that I had there was so magical. I felt like I was at home. It was incredible. So I fully understand what you're saying here.
Right. And, that, of course, might lead some people who are listening to ask the question, well, I live in Siberia. It sounds like Tulum would be great for anybody, But I lived in Hawaii for 20 years. And I can tell you, many, many people come to Hawaii. They fall in love with the beauty of it, but their life isn't thriving. They're not falling in love. They're not maybe even depreciating. And you look at the map and you can see they made the wrong turn. They maybe should have went to the Caribbean, or maybe to the Seychelles Islands in the Indian Ocean if they were looking for tropical, or Tuscany or other places that might be more in harmony with their heart and soul. And it's not just about beauty, nor is it just about finances. Sometimes people say, where can I make money? Well, you can make it anywhere. It's really, will you enjoy your money? Will you have the health to enjoy your money? And so again, to me, it's not about where to write a book or where to fall in love or where to make money. It really is about where's the best quality of life.
Good point.
Even if you don't have, you don't become the rock and roll star or the president, you can have a good life, And that to me would be the bottom line.
Now, one of the best things that I've found with astrocartography is that it helps you understand what's going on in your life and how you're reacting to life when you look at the exact place that you're living. And for me, I discovered what exactly was going on. Sometimes I could be a live wire.
In this case, it was Mercury and the planet Uranus. Now, Mercury and the planet Uranus both are associated with the nervous system. One is, you might call it the parasympathetic, the other is the sympathetic. But when you put those two together, you have a wired nervous system, or somebody who's going to be jumping out of their skin a lot, whether it's an anxiety of fear, or whether it's just being busy on the telephone all the time, or the mind is going all the time. So in your situation, I'd say it wasn't the worst lines. It's that over time, it's kind of been taking its toll on your nervous system, which at least gives us the option here, a couple of options. One, of course, is to nurture your nervous system,
right?
Or be complex, or at least, if you do have adequate B complex, because the B complex vitamin is what feeds the nervous system. That would be, for instance, a dietary approach, or drinking nervines like chamomile tea and things that calm and feed the nervous system. But in your case, we also could test in the Feng Shui, because we can simplify the house, because most people pick houses that reflect their issues.
Right.
So the house, as I looked at it, of course, reflects somebody who's going to be racing around, busy or with anxiety. So if we're able to contain it or reconfigure it so that it's a more of a harmonious and calm and peaceful environment, then you can take a breath and actually quiet the mind a little bit and be less anxious, and you can maybe survive in Southern California.
And now I can also understand that with the planet Mercury, and it stands for the communication aspect. And this is the reason why I picked up the radio. In any case, what this has meant to me is that I'm able to relax and to be more calmer and to just take things as they flow. This is really good stuff for me.
Glad to help out.
It was so necessary.
Yeah. See, also, I think telling also is not just some of those words, but are you sleeping better? Are you moving through life with more of a sense of grace? And that becomes, to me, the proof of the pudding, as such as it is. So it may very well be that you can live on your Mercury line. Just because you're living on your Mercury line, yes, you might be in a communication field, such as you are, but quite frankly, looking at your birth chart, communications is what you're all about anyhow. You're a Gemini, It's just how fast are you chitter-chattering, or how fast are you juggling, or how fast... Because, as you know, I'm a Gemini, too. I'm not moving as fast as you, honey. I've written my books on it, and I'm not living on the Mercury line. So it is what you would do anywheres, because that's your natural inclination. How successful or not, again, would be your karma. but are you enjoying the ride? Are you enjoying the journey? And that's what we'll, first of all, we can already attest to by saying that you're sleeping better, eating better, and you're feeling much more in your center. Because it's very easy for people to read books about consciousness and personal growth and do all this personal work, but the proof, again, is in the living. And it's easier to live harmoniously even without doing all the self-work if you're living in a good place.
That is a
and
good
if you do
point.
the work, then the challenge is, as was in your case, in my case too, of course, is to narrow that gap between our intellectual understanding of the truth and our ability to walk the talk. You know, do we embody it? We can talk about being in the now and be here now, but are we being in the now?
Exactly. But knowledge that you can gain from this really prepares you and gets you centered on your intentions of what you want to have happen in your life. I mean, look at it this way. If you want to live in harmony, if you want to have great relationships, if you want to be able to be financially secure, why would you not want to know all of this information? And I think this is where Elliot Tanzer can actually help you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the confirmation. But yeah, with astrology, I would say there's really four different primary skill sets that we're looking for. One, of course, is the interpretation of the birth chart, knowing what your basic inclinations are. Are you on the path that's going to bring you that purpose in life, that fulfillment? What are the health inclinations? We can look at a chart and say these are your health preconditions, but that doesn't necessarily mean you'll have to suffer from them. But if you're not living in the best location, you probably are suffering from them. Like, as we said, a Gemini might have an inclination towards an overwhelmed nervous system, but that doesn't mean you have to be overwhelmed.
Right.
But when that red flag goes up, then you got to take action. Is it Feng Shui? Is it diet? And so those are the kinds of things I look for in a birth chart reading. Now, of course, we can also compare two birth charts to see about relationship compatibility. Now, of course, we can often fall in love with someone, but that doesn't necessarily mean we have the compatibility to live with that person we're in love with, as all of us have found out, or many of us have. And so that's another way of evaluating, well, where is that? Is it something that we can work around, such as we could talk about working around the nervous system, or is it really something that someone is stuck with? So any project or any major move has a birth moment, and we can draw a chart for that, for the wedding date, for a corporation date. Well, of course, the birth date, when you were born, is your energy blueprint for your whole life. And then we can see the unfolding pattern. That's what we referred to earlier as transits, progressions, solar returns. That's where we see what's going on right now with who you are and who you are becoming. So those would be the three main skills for astrology chart. And then, of course, the astrocartography is a separate map that's plotted out, a large format. That's what's going to show the path of the planets were across the face of the Earth at the moment of incarnation. So again, it's a blueprint. It's for life. And then, of course, this changes from year to year. That might be ups and downs or little bumps here or there. But the overall pattern is that if your life is joyful, and you're, even though you might have a divorce or you might have a bankruptcy, was it easy? Some divorces are easy, or some are bitter battles. So again, I think a lot of that, from my experience looking at so many maps, is that even when a person has a divorce on the right line, well, of course, it's going to be awkward and challenging for a moment or a few days, maybe a few weeks. But in a month or so, people become good friends and they go, I love you dearly. We just weren't compatible for living together. So at least we can be friends, whether it's co-parenting or just being friends and because we live in the same town and we're going to run into each other at the same parties because we have the same friends.
Yeah.
At least we should be able to hug and say, how have you been? Are you moving on in life? Yay.
Elliot, let me ask you, is it better to use Feng Shui when there's multiple people in the household, or would it be better to use astrology, or both?
Well, they all have their relevance. So, well, first, I guess maybe to reframe it this way is that if it's just a temporary challenge, whether it's a temporary might mean a few months or even a year or two, because we do have cycles sometimes where we're not doing so well for a couple of years, maybe even 6 or 7. Well, that could be a temporary thing, and this too will change. And then my job would be to say, hey, you got 3 more weeks and you're free, or sorry to tell you, you got another year to go. Well, at least there's a limit, But if it's, as I say, an ongoing theme, you grew up with bad bones and joints and teeth, and you still have arthritis, and you're only in your 30s, you're probably just living on Saturn, and that's not a healthy or a happy place to live. And it'll show in the relationship, it'll show in health. Maybe career is okay, but you're not happy with the boss, you're not happy with the circumstances. When I say career is okay, you're doing what you love to do and you're making money, but you're not happy with the circumstances. More than just a passing transit. This is something that's an ongoing pattern of your life. So if you're talking about now a house of a family of 3, 4, or 5, I have to be honest and say that not always does everybody get to live in the best location, but at least maybe 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 4, or at least know what the youngest child or maybe the child that's ready to graduate and go to college is up against. So maybe we can send them to an area where the college is going to be more thriving for them and more joyful for them. I used to give this example of, a family with 2 sisters. One was the cheerleader type, the sociable and always going places. The other was the sourpuss, what's referred to as the spoiler, never happy. Well, when that little lady was relocated for college to a place that was more joyful for her, she became a cheerleader type too, as in social and outgoing. And so, we can kind of sometimes say, well, it's first sibling, second sibling, or, we have all these other ways to analyze, but the bottom line is, are you happy? Now, when we look in the house in the Feng Shui, again, we might at least be able to, as we did in your house, find where those irritations are and where those unhappy combinations of maybe it's the furniture, maybe it's a large, heavy picture over their bed that could fall on their head. It may never fall on their head, but now we're talking Feng Shui. A lot of Feng Shui has to do with that reptilian brain, the primitive brain, which says, what if? That brain is still living in caveman times where there was saber-toothed tigers and rock lions, and what if? So we walked around very cautious. That's why we developed the fight or flight capability of our bodies, so that if there's a problem, we can get all that blood pumping, run as fast as we could, fight as hard as we could, depending on the circumstance. So that's really what Feng Shui is really all about. Well, on one level, is removing all those stresses or stressors that might be activating the fears, the fight, or the concern that something bad can happen. Once we remove that, the other part of Feng Shui, of course, is to attract favorable energy and to gather that energy so that it does nurture us and nourish us. So that's what that gets a little more formulaic. But the book that I wrote on Feng Shui called Feng Shui Secrets, Improving Your Health, Wealth, and Relationship Harmony, is 165 problems around the house that have to do with, and you can go down the checklist and you can pick out 5 or 25 or maybe hopefully not more than that, and then turn to the page and see what the solution is to remove that stress. The relationship of the bed to the door, it might be the position of the toilet in another room that's in a configuration that's impacting a person in their bedroom or at their desk. So there's a lot of illustrations, of course, to illustrate how this plays out. But that's really the first level Feng Shui and probably the oldest.
Well, would you say that it's probably more important if you're living with a number of people in your house, a family? Is it more important to really address the relationship so that you can all live in harmony and then address the business or money or whatever?
I guess that depends on what's the biggest issue in that house.
Yeah.
No money and they're all starving. I think I address money first. Because we think of the house as a container, right? It contains energy, and of course the people's energy that live in it. And if there's a lot of holes in that bucket, then the money is just going all over the place. So I would first be looking for those, you might say, where to patch up the hole in the bucket so that people can have money coming in, but they can hold on to it. And yes, at the same time, we might as well be looking at the bedrooms and the relationship sometimes of a birthday to the direction that someone's they're pointing, their head is pointing when they lay down. All these are factors. I wouldn't necessarily say one is more important until I look at the whole story, but unfortunately, again, one book on, say, Feng Shui about best direction to sit or sleep, and they rearrange their bed for their best direction, but the rest of the Feng Shui, which was what I said my book is about, which is the bed should be up against the wall so it's anchored, have a solid wall behind so there's support, nothing hanging over the head that could fall on their head, at least not anything heavy. And even the headboard could be analyzed as being positive or negative. But, where's the side tables? Is there an armoire or a dresser with very sharp points? Where's the points pointing at? Some of these are subtle, and that's why we call them hidden arrows, because it was an obvious arrow, you would move, point it someplace else.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you imagine someone coming into your or dining room and holding a bow and arrow and pointing it at you, and you say, can you point that somewhere else? And they say, well, I'm not going to let go of the arrow. You don't have to worry. Can you point it someplace else?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay.
But if it was a statue of a goddess from Greece with a bow and arrow made out of wood or stone, you still wouldn't want it pointing at you. And for sure, that's never going to hit you, but it feels uncomfortable.
Right.
Right? So anything that has a sharp point is pointing at you is, in the abstraction of our reptilian brain, a threat. Even though it's a furniture or a lampshade that's shaped strangely and not just nice and soft and clothy like.
Right. Now, it's really important where the bathroom is located in your house. And I know that you came and saw my hall bathroom and the lid was up and you kind of just, shook your head at me and no. I thought that was kind of funny.
Well, there's a few different things with the toilet because, of course, the toilet has its own symbology, right? It's for waste. It goes down the toilet. So if the seat is closed visually, then we don't have energy going down the toilet. So that's one reason for it. So, of course, men tend to be the most to put down the seat, or I should say the lid and the seat. Well, now they have a good reason, too.
Right.
Honey, we're saving money every time you put the lid down. It's kind of like making a bed or mowing the lawn and making sure all the edges are straight. It's just kind of housekeeping, really. Just that we get lazy in that department because of years of laziness. Then the direction the toilet is pointing, the front of it or the back. So in front-back mode, if it's pointing at a bed or at where you're sitting at your desk, even though it's in another room, you can't see it visually, energetically, it's there. It's your house. You know where everything is. Even if you don't pay attention to stuff, you know where it is on the unconscious or subconscious level. So that's an easy cure. I'm not sure what page it is in my book, but the idea is to just put a mirror between where you're sitting or sleeping and either the front or the back of the toilet. Then, of course, it depends on, is there a closet you can put it in, or is there a piece of furniture you can put it behind? Because it needs to be facing towards the toilet, even though it's in your room against the wall. The mirror is facing the wall, and then the toilet in the other room is bouncing away from it. Okay? So it's a symbolic cure to some extent, but nevertheless one that seems to work. And you'd be surprised how many swollen ankles have disappeared when the toilet was pointing at the ankles, or other parts of the body that might have been in that direct line of energy and coming under kind of stress, the bowels or lungs and so forth. So again, the history on it is amazing to me, and that's why, of course, when I first learned about Feng Shui back in 1987 or 8, when it really just started to become a phenomena in the United States, a friend of mine went off to Feng Shui school. Of course, he was a good friend, and I wanted to go too, sibling rivalry, But then 5 years later, he came to visit me in Hawaii, and he walked around and he said, oh, hang a crystal here or do that there. And I'm going, woo, woo. But when he walked into my bedroom, and as he walked in, his hands went to his neck, and he said, do you have a pain in the neck on the right side? Oh, no, I'm sorry, on the left side. And it amazed me because 10 days earlier, actually, I woke up with a stiff neck. And like my mother might have said, when I was growing up, must have been the way you slept, or it might have been a draft. Almost everyone's mother says that.
Absolutely.
It didn't occur to me until he pointed to the bookshelf on to the left of my headboard, where I sleep, my pillows, that I had just put that bookshelf up 10 days earlier. And it was the next morning that I woke up with the pain in the neck because it was in direct line of sight for me to see the door coming in from behind me off to the far left. So it blocked my view, which meant that energetically, not rational in any way, but just energetically, it's like I was trying to look around this bookshelf while here I am sitting and reading maybe my book.
Oh, wow.
And so that twist in the neck, I couldn't see the door. I couldn't see who's coming in from behind me. And that's an energetic thing. I mean, if you were a gangster going to a restaurant, you wouldn't sit with your back to the door.
No. Always facing, yeah.
Right. So we call that the command position. You sit where you have the widest view of the room, where's the door or the windows, and or anything that might be a challenge to your being comfortable in that restaurant. Mm-hmm. So likewise, in a bedroom, we should be able to see the door, but not be in a straight line, either straight to the body or straight in front of us, because that cross energy. And likewise, we often do this in kids' rooms, where kids come back into your story, is that sometimes we'll put a desk against the wall because it's convenient, leaves the most space in the middle for the kids to play. But that desk for them to do their studies is in direct line of the doorway coming into their bedroom. And a kid will not sit there. They're distracted. They're looking over their shoulder. They'll end up at the kitchen table so that they can be part of the house and see what's going on without being in the cross track.
Wow.
And so likewise, a businessman or a woman who's sitting in an office with her back to the door or a door to her side will be always looking over her shoulder or his shoulder, what's coming in.
Exactly.
So here I put a bookshelf that blocked my view, and the next morning woke up with a pain in the neck.
Interesting.
Took that bookshelf, pain in the neck went away.
Huh.
Another question I should have asked even before my friend showed up is, it's 10 days, it's kink in my neck. Doesn't make sense. And I've had case histories with people with 2 years of pelvic inflammation. Oh, it happened in an aerobics class. No, it happened in their bedroom. Then they went to aerobics class and it collapsed on them. Shifted the bed and relocated a piece of furniture in one case or the other, and pelvis cleared up within a few days.
Wow.
That's 2 years of acupuncture, herbology, and chiropractic, trying everything. And
exactly. You know, that's one of the things I like about you and how you do things. You have so much diverse knowledge about astrology, Feng Shui, and that you're able to put all of these Feng Shui schools together to get the most out of the situation.
Basically, there's many actually schools, but 3 basic approaches or schools. One that everyone has to use, which is the one that I referred to earlier, which is where's the doors, where's the bedrooms, the bathrooms, what's straight in the line of the front door, is there a window and door from the front door of the house to the back window. So that's structure. That land form.
Oh, okay.
In other words, if you put your house on top of a mountain and it's made out of sticks, when the wind blows, it'll blow away. So that's not good structure, you see. Or if you put it on the valley and there's a flood and you get washed away, not good feng shui.
Right.
So now we translate that to a city. You can build your house on top of this Empire State Building. Doesn't make sense, right? Or you're going to put it in a which is like a river, you'll get washed away or run over. Now you bring that in terms of a small community. So likewise, which way is the road bending? So that's called landform. And all systems of feng shui require that as the foundation. Without that, the other techniques are just techniques that don't really work effectively. Then what you were asking about in particular is what's referred to as black sect. Tantric Buddhist feng shui, a lot of words, but the idea here is that this is more of a modern, and it's what you were inferring actually when you said the regular, because it's the one that's most popular in the United States. It was first, that's the one I had heard about back in '86. My friend went to study because this woman from New York went to China, or actually it was Taiwan, and she studied Chinese language with this teacher who happened to also be a Feng Shui guy. And when she was sitting in his waiting room waiting for her appointment, he was giving advice to people. Move your furniture, do this. She says, what are you talking about to these people? And he said, Feng Shui. She said, what? And so the rest of the world got to hear about it because she happened to be a journalist. She wrote the book, the bestseller. Wow. But it's not the original Feng Shui. The original Feng Shui uses a compass. And unfortunately, the compass school people, who have been doing it this one way for thousands of years, or 1,002 years, they feel very, how should I say, disrespectful or in disregard of this new technique of where's your wealth corner, where's your relationship corner, and they don't see that as authentic Feng Shui. So to them, because it doesn't use a compass, this is just some kind of new agey kind of thing. But it actually does come under the law of attraction concept. And that's why it works so well.
Yeah.
It's about how we project onto our space in terms of left brain, right brain, back of the house, front of the house. And even though it seems, so it's a way that we map out our living space on the unconscious level, so much so that we can say in the back, if you divide the floor plan into a tic-tac-toe board, 9 boxes, the back left corner from the front door, wherever the front door of the house is, that back left corner, that's going to be the wealth corner. So if there's a bathroom there, bring us back to the bathroom, then your money's going down the toilet.
Yeah.
And that's a tough one to cure. If it's in the far right back corner, that's the relationship corner. So when I mentioned it to a woman, why my relationships go down the toilet, she automatically understood the symbolism of it. But in that case, we can do a lot to change that karma. Okay, of course, she had relationship problems throughout her life, but once we addressed the issue and she approached the bathroom now as a different, not just as a bathroom, but as having significance, instead of the rag on the floor that she called a bath mat, she got a brand. Instead of the shower curtain that was torn a little bit and hanging there because she really didn't care. A good one with kind of pastel colors. And when she made the place look like a decent, maybe more like a spa than a toilet room, right? A crystal. Within 2 weeks, she fell in love with somebody.
Oh, my goodness, that fast.
And a real nice guy who rubbed her feet every night. He was an artist type like she was, so very free-spirited. And they were very happy.
Oh, my goodness. So I think it's safe to say if somebody has been looking for love for an extended amount of time and nothing's happened, the reason may just lie in where you're living or what corner is your relationship corner. Well,
now we have 2 levels. One, of course, it could be their Feng Shui of their house, and that would be the first thing to look for because that's the easiest.
Uh-huh.
As I said, make that 9 boxes on the floor plan. The house isn't a perfect square, but try to square it off. If the section is missing, like 1/3 of the back or side, and that's considered a missing corner, you might be missing relationships, or you might be missing wealth, or one of the other areas. And if it's just a little bit extra in an area, in other words, 1/3 additional with 2/3 missing, then you draw the box on the rest of the house, and that little extra is called extra. So if it's in wealth, you get more money. If it's in relationship, you got a better relationship, okay? But that's the way to square off the house and then make your 9 boxes, okay? Now, you can also do that on each room of the house, okay? So first we analyze the floor plan of the whole house. Well, no lack, no problem there. Great. Check off the list. Then you go to the room. You go to your bedroom, for instance. Let's say a person's a single woman. And she makes that 9 boxes, and she looks from the front door to the far right corner again. And where her doggy bed is, guess who her relationship is with? Or if it's a picture of all of her girlfriends and family members, guess who your relationship is with? You see? So it tells a story. So that's why it works so well for me to make that jump from astrology to reading a house, because it tells a story. On the other hand, if there's a picture of a knight in shiny armor and a damsel not in distress, whatever, well, now you've elevated yourself to that status. You see, so now you're going to a relationship. But you can't imagine how many single women have a picture of a single woman in that corner. And some are pretty extreme, Ophelia drifting down the river. Well, that tells us a lot about your disappointments and your heartaches, and that's your relationship story. Well, let's change it. Let's spruce it up. Let's put 2 candles or 2 frogs, or, or if it's a married couple, let's put your marriage contract there, or a picture of the two with your honeymoon when you were really happy and smiley. Because, after 30, 40, 50 years, you'll still be happy with that same person, right? So, but what's now in that corner? Maybe a dusty picture, a faded picture. Well, there goes the relationship. It is faded with time.
Right.
Or if there's a kid in the picture, then the kid dominates the relationship. We just don't have time for each other because the kid needs us. Well, just a picture of the couple without the family in that corner will do a lot for attracting a relationship if you're not in one, or keeping it harmonious if you are already in one. Of course, we can also look at the property if you have a house on property. What's in from the front driveway? What's in the back right corner? Hopefully it's not a dead cow or a dead tree.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
But if we give priority, I'd say the first most important thing is what's going on in the room. It would be the floor plan of the house. And then, we would want to check the property if that was relevant.
But there are cures that you can recommend that we do so that we can change everything that's going on. I know that you had me do quite a few cures. Thank goodness. And one that really impressed me was in the center of my home, you had me work on the health. Mm-hmm. So I put fire, the red, and everything, and crystals there to change the energy, because I was lacking. Nothing was there before, but you had me change it completely up.
Yeah, in your case, it was to liven you up. Not as more frenetic, but as in more vitality and energy and not being tired from running around frenetically. So in your case, we were trying to really strengthen your nervous system so that you have a higher threshold of tolerance for all that electricity that you're channeling, both intellectually, mentally. So it's both your genius, but it's also, you see, your Achilles heel if it's not taken care of.
You're right.
But if you think of the center of the house as the hub, like the hub of a wheel, or the heart of the house, which is really the Feng Shui terminology, then it should be open space, it should be clear, and anything that's there should be like a hub, as opposed to, again, trash or clutter, or maybe a bathroom in the center of the house. You can see how that's symbology. So that's what we call Black Sect Tantric Buddhist Feng Shui. And a lot of it does come originally from the Tibetan, combined with the Chinese forms, as we talked about, the structure and the windows and doors and all that. And it's kind of a innovation. The older system is using the compass, and that's where we align ourselves with the magnetic field, or the house with the magnetic field. In other words, are we drawing to energy, which we call chi, or is it in a configuration where we're drawing energy? And obviously we want to either cure that, or in some cases, and I give nine in my book, where I go, these are houses that have no cures. Ooh. If you're living like underneath a cliff overhang, that's not something you're going to change. Or if right outside your window is a transformer on a utility pole within 25 feet of your headboard, you're not going to get the city to move that utility pole.
Right.
This is just not a healthy house. And most houses I've been to like that, chemical sensitivity or fibromyalgia, these more severe immune system problems, because they're in a constant state of electronics. And we haven't yet really evolved to be on that, I think it's a 60 megahertz cycle that electronics work on. So yes, we can hope we can neutralize it. There are many neutralizing devices, of which I have access to as well, to recommend. But then again, we're suggesting these things in a very cautious way, because the only way you'll know if you start to improve in your health, and I would like to say within a couple of weeks, but if several months passes and it's not helping, then it might just be one of those situations that are intolerable, and we have to, consider that. So I've only had very few cases since I've been doing this now 20 years, where I told someone, I think the best thing is really to move. We'll do what we could to stabilize where you're at, but you'd be smart to start looking. And of course, sometimes the house is very good feng shui, but as I say, the cartography indicates that it's not as good as it could be.
Right.
So I'm introducing the astrocartography to the feng shui community as global feng shui, which of course is not traditional in any way. Because in ancient days, nobody moved out of their village, let alone across the world.
Yeah.
Smaller countries like Japan, or smaller countries even like Estonia or Latvia, there's not going to be a lot of change between one end of the country to the other. Well, maybe an island that's long like Japan might have a difference in southern Japan compared to northern Japan. Of course, right now they have the nuclear reactor in the northern. Should either be Tokyo or south anyhow. But, but in smaller countries, it's not going to be too much difference sometimes between an East Coast or West Coast as it would be, say, in the United States. Or it might be if you're considering you're living maybe in Austria, but don't mind moving to France or Barcelona, where it might be, again, more favorable. Or as in your situation when you went to some places based on a line, it could have also just been the latitude wasn't the best latitude, even though the line was good, and maybe 50 miles south or 40 miles north would have put you in a slightly different energy pattern. So there are layers. That's why, again, I say for the mapping, it should be with someone who's been certified, and there's some really wonderful people around the country.
As well as you, Elliot.
Right.
And Elliot, we need to tell people how they can get a hold of you.
Thank you. Well, I do have my website, which I, of course, would love to recommend people go see, because I do have an article archives. There's a lot of articles on various kinds of feng shui techniques, and they're all different articles that appeared in magazines or newspapers over the years. So, and my website is basically my first and last name as one word, ElliotTanzer.com, www. And my email address is the same, et@ElliotTanzer.com. So my initials ET. It's ELLIOT, and my last name TANZER. So it writes out Elliot Tanzer with two T's in the middle. And my book is Feng Shui Secrets, Improving Health, Wealth, and Relationship Harmony. And I do have a book on astrocartography for anybody who is not just, well, of course, if you're in astrology, you may want to add this to your list of services that you can provide by learning how to do it if you haven't studied with somebody already. But it's also, I have two sections of that book. One is the long instructions for the astrologer who wants to learn all the details. Then I have the quick instructions for the layperson who just wants to figure out where's the best place. And in the book, I tell you where you can order maps for $15, and then you follow my instructions. But I would say, cautionary note, it's only for people who are good at instructions. If you can't plug in your cell phone or your DVD or something, or you look at a map and you get totally lost, then no, the book would not be for you, because there are step-by-step instructions. If you're good with instructions and not, bedazzled by a map and lose your eyesight looking at it, then you should be able to use my book too.
Okay, great.
Otherwise, of course, call me.
Yeah, there we go. And his book, everything you can get on his site. But Elliot, just discussing about the possibility of putting together a feng shui cruise out of Los Angeles, because I've been looking at it, and a 3-day cruise of which he would teach you all about feng shui. Yeah. I think this would be so incredible, because it's amazing. I have studied or looked at feng shui for years and years and years, and every book you read, you get a little bit more confused, and you get a little bit more confused. If you really want to get the whole scoop of how you can live in better harmony, the best way is to use a professional, and Elliot is by far the top of his field. I'm highly going to recommend him. But I think a cruise, 3 days of which we can just focus in on.
And on that 3-day cruise idea, which I think is really great for anyone who wants to learn this, or learn for themselves, not necessarily be a professional, because in 3 days what we would be able to cover is all the landforms, in other words, and we can use all the people who come to the site can bring their floor plans.
Very
and
cool.
So we have, hands-on demonstration. So even if you're not learning Feng Shui, you're pretty much going to leave with knowing what to do for your house, right? But you'll get all the ideas about the command position and hidden arrows, what we call Sha Qi and Shang Qi. And, there's not a whole lot of Chinese, but what all that stuff is all about, and 5-element theory, and how to apply that to your house, as well as looking at how we're going to apply it to the other floor plans. So it's a lot of hands-on in that regard. And then because of the nature of a cruise like this, the other emphasis will be on what we call the bagua. Where's your wealth corner, relationship corner? The other corners have to do with reputation, family, creativity, career, knowledge, and one very important one for a lot of people, helpful people.
Oh, yeah.
Have support in your life. Oh, my nanny, I just fired another one. The plumber, he screwed up. This guy, you don't have a good, helpful person. A travel agent messed up. And it's very interesting. Just by doing the right things in that corner of the house or apartment, suddenly you get the right nanny and you get the right electrician who doesn't even charge you all that he could have and didn't mess up. So it really changes the whole energy. And then, of course, I can only introduce the compass because that's actually a 5-day class.
Right. But we want to do the simple, where you're going to get answers immediately and then they can take it back. I think it's going to be a fun cruise. And it's only 3 days out of, we're going to go out of California. We're not going to fly anywhere so people can come by. And I don't have a date on that, but I will have it. So I'm going to ask everybody just to go to the LOA Radio Network, and we're going to be promoting the heck out of it, because if there's one way that you can live in harmony, it's through Elliot Tanzer.
Thank you. It's very kind of you. We appreciate the opportunity to share information, of course, at all levels, and this was fun, and you're wonderful to work with.
Oh, thank you, Elliot. And we are all out of time, but Elliot, I'm looking forward to our cruise, sir.
I am too. It's been a while since I've been out in the sea.
Yes, and to all my wonderful listeners out there, have a great week. We'll be back next week with another great show on Law of Attraction Talk Radio. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back next week with another great show from Law of Attraction Talk Radio. If you'd like to comment on tonight's show, send an email to jules@loaradionetwork.com and have a great week.